Welcome, my friends. It is Sunday. That is Sunday, October 2nd, 2011. I'm Alex Jones, joining you live from the road. We are going to have the regularly scheduled broadcast Sunday show that'll be a best-of retransmission, also with some segments from Friday's Infowars nightly news. That will be on 4 to 6 today. But the information I've got for you is so important that I am joining you from literally South Texas on the side of the highway. I'm sick and tired of the TSA sticking their hands down people's pants, grabbing on my genitals. I'm not going to let them molest my wife or children. So I've gotten an RV so that I can travel around the country and speak at different affiliates that we have and have local events, because listeners have been requesting it and, quite frankly, demanding it. So this is our second maiden trial of the RV and the onboard broadcasting system that we're going to be using probably about every 2 months, or perhaps even more. I'm going to be out on the road live. And again, I'll go to local affiliates, do my show there or on the road, and then speak in different towns and cities each evening. And I plan for these to be basically week-long trips every 2 months where I go to different parts of the country. The East Coast, the South, the Southwest, the North, the Northwest. We're going to go all over the United States and speak out against the globalist and meet with fellow info warriors and lovers of liberty all across the country. Now, this morning at about 8 a.m., I decided to do this special transmission today at 2 o'clock Central. And I called Aaron Dykes. I called her IT people. I called Rob Jacobson. I called Paul Watson. And they all came in on Sunday so that we could bring you this information. The article that Paul Watson has written that is at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com dealing with the Wall Street occupation and what's really behind it. Aaron Dykes and his posting, he's in there at the office right now, and our IT people right now in the studio bringing you this information. And a lot of times I come on air months and months and months ahead of something big happening and predict it. But then other times, big events begin to unfold, and I sit back for a few weeks and don't really give you my take on it because I'm busy really letting the information stew in my own mind and really studying the situation before I voice my, not opinion, but my well-researched view on something. And that's what I'm going to tell you here right now. Now, this is a very sophisticated, nuanced position because it's reality-based. And if I don't address it properly, it will actually play into the left-right controlled opposition paradigm that the globalists are pushing. So I want to be very, very clear about this. Wall Street has hijacked our republic. Wall Street is the opposite of free market. Wall Street, as it is today, is the opposite of what you would call true capitalism. It is crony capitalism or crony fascism, insider monopoly capitalism, which seeks to create communism and socialism in their own documents. Carol Quigley wrote about it, of course. People from the outside like Gary Allen, whose son now runs Politico, was able to break it down and none dare call a conspiracy back in the early 1970s. And, of course, his book just basically mirrors what's admitted by Curl Quigley and others. But without getting too academic here with you today, I want you to listen to me very, very, very carefully. There are a lot of good people involved in this Occupy Wall Street movement. Wall Street is the problem. But it's a sophisticated problem, and the globalists have camouflaged themselves well. But if you do the research, it's ridiculous how they stick out like a sore thumb. It's like one of those hidden image, paintings that you look at, you don't see it. And once you see it, you can't believe you didn't see it before. So here's what's happening. In the last 2 weeks since this Occupy Wall Street thing has begun, we've interviewed Luke Radowski on the ground. We've interviewed other activists that have been there. The police have been out of control, beating up peaceful protesters, arresting media people. It's been terrible. But you have to ask yourself, who is organizing the Occupy Wall Street movement? And of all the different groups that are there taking part in it, the libertarian groups, the conservative groups, the liberal groups, the socialist groups, the communist groups, that whole spectrum, in the Fedders, Ron Paul supporters, you name it. Of that entire spectrum of people, who originally organized it, A, and B, who is the mainstream corporate whore media giving attention to? And then you'll understand what the goal of this is. Okay? But first, let me state our executive summary of this, and then I will go through the evidence of it. And we're going to have more articles out tomorrow. I've been researching it for 2 weeks. I can now definitively tell you what this is. George Soros-linked and White House-linked groups and known White House and Democratic Party operatives. And I watched these videos last night. I watched them this morning and really confirmed that what Webster Tarpley said on my show Wednesday on Infowars Nightly News, when he went through the fact that, look at the slogans, look at the groups, this is clearly a fake George Sorosian kind of color revolution. The globalists create revolutions to counter themselves so they control the opposition. Now, I remember 2 weeks ago seeing the George Soros White House connections, but still I wasn't sure. Then you see the police attacking them, which is designed to make them martyrs. And of course, there's other diverse groups there and just grassroots people there. So you can't color it with one brush. The point is, though, that the mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the New York Daily News, CNN, all of them are giving this massive attention when they don't give in the Fed attention, going after the real heart of the problem, the real top of the pyramid. So that's happening. So we've got that going on. The media is giving them attention, and they're giving attention to, and now it's happening in L.A., Chicago, Boston, all over the country. We're seeing the Occupy Wall Street movement. And we'll go over their demands in a moment. They're all scripted with a Democratic Party type operative up front who says mindless slogans who were then mindlessly repeated by the crowd. So this is right out of central casting, right out of the Democratic Party, right out of George Soros, and we've done the research. It's all linked to those groups. We've got articles up at Infowars.com and PrisonPundit.com breaking that down. More tomorrow. So why is the establishment doing this? Why? Because they know that the country has woken up to the private Federal Reserve hijacking the nation. We've woken up to the planned austerity, to raise our taxes, cut our benefits, steal our Social Security, unfunded mandates to the states, and then take that money and pay it to Wall Street through the banker bailouts, which are direct taxes to them. We see the same thing happening in Europe right now. Taxes going up, benefits going down. The public signed on to hundreds and hundreds of trillions of derivatives that the banks created. So it is the global banking cartel. And they know there's giant opposition to it. So just like they know the Arabs are about to rebel against Western dictators and other things 6 months ago, the West knew that. They had all their Google actuaries and spy grids picking up the chatter. They could predict mass movements. They knew with derivatives prices imploding and all this happening and dollar devaluation globally that was driving up commodity prices. They knew people were being pushed to the edge of rioting. So they went in and triggered their color revolution operatives, just like George Soros and the Pentagon and the State Department have done all over Eastern Europe and in Georgia and have tried to do in Iran. That's all on record. They bragged they financed all of this, from Libya to Syria to the successes of places like Egypt. So now this is coming here. The banksters can't just come in and take over society and implode society and get the lion's share of tax money paid to them with the derivatives that they've mixed into the rest of our societal pension funds and systems and social security systems. They've got to lead the opposition. So what do they have happen? And I've talked about this a lot. I mean, people are tuning in saying, well, a lot of this, Alex, we already knew and heard. I know, but now it's totally clear we're going to the next phase. So stay with me, and I'll sum it all up. But you know, I don't just give little simple boilerplate chants like the George Soros people or Rush Limbaugh does on the right, all working for the same global interest to keep you on their left-right plantation. We have seen a total and complete mass buildup to what's happening now. And we've seen the Federal Reserve in the last 3.5 years surveilling Ron Paul when he gives in the Fed speeches outside the Fed in Houston. The same day I was there with Ron Paul's brother, Wayne Paul, it's in the Obama deception, giving a speech in Dallas at the Fed. And it later got leaked and was confirmed that the U.S. Army was at all the In the Fed events surveilling us as, quote, terrorists, and telling the military that we were terrorists. But good people inside the military knew what was happening and leaked the information saying it was unconstitutional, that they were there surveilling us and had been told that we were basically bad people being demonized. It came out, of course, 3 weeks ago. We broke the news. Now it was in the New York Times and other publications over the weekend and Forbes that the Federal Reserve is, quote, surveilling everyone in real time with NSA-type technology on the web, every comment, every blog comment, to whether you're a friend or foe of the Federal Reserve. This is the illegitimate government that's hijacked things. This is the oligarchy, the finance capitalists who are the opposite of free market, the admitted monopoly men, the John D. Rockefeller folks that said 100 years ago plus, 110 years ago or so, that competition was a sin. He said that in a newspaper in 1901, so exactly 110 years ago. These are the people. See, it confuses the grassroots socialists and liberals. They think rich guys are bad, take their money, we'll all get wealth. You could take all the wealth in the U.S. that isn't offshore. It's $2 trillion. It wouldn't run the country for 1 year. They've got Warren Buffett out on every TV show I've seen for 6 months, ABC, CNN, saying, I don't pay taxes. That's wrong. Raise my taxes. What you don't know is he openly gets the banker bailouts through the Bank of America that he owns part of, and, of course, Wells Fargo. He helped 12 years ago on record, along with Bill Clinton and others, and Republican leadership, get rid of Glass-Steagall and write the legislation. Listen to me carefully. And write the legislation exempting them from taxes offshore. That's why he pays 0%, or Google pays 2.4%, or all these other, Walmart overseas pays 0%, or General Electric pays 0%. They're exempt. Then they come in and have the Democratic Party and their operatives and Obama get up and say, hey, 99%, isn't getting all this wealth, so raise taxes. That's the elite sicking the poor people on the middle class that actually buy things and do things and keep the economy going to get rid of it, saying $125,000 a year individually, raise your taxes, you're rich. Husband and wife married, $250,000, 150,000 combined, boom, you're going to have your taxes raised. When you actually look at what Obama and his boss, Warren Buffett, who campaigned for him and gave him all that money, they're openly pushing, just like in Europe, to raise taxes on the middle class to pay it offshore into the global central banks. And then they have a big gaggle of simple-minded protesters out there in the streets running around calling for socialism. I saw clips this weekend of Michael Moore being questioned by Luke Rudowski. It's up at Infowars.com. Kurt Nimmo wrote an article about it titled Michael Moore Hearts, or I Love Hearts the Federal Reserve. See, the Federal Reserve knows the public isn't sophisticated. And so they simply sick the giant mob of socialists and people that are worth $200 million like Michael Moore on regular people making $50, $60, $70, $100,000, $200,000 a year. By the way, they've all had their taxes raised one way or the other. And so let me just simplify all of this right now. This is the part that needs to get out to everybody. This is the elite using class warfare to sick the underclass who's confused on what's left of the globalist, ultra-richest hereditary enemy, the middle class that doesn't want to be under a monopoly system. And so they know there's a revolution brewing in this country, and the globalists are masters at co-opting and misdirecting it against their enemy, and that's the middle class. And when they're done with it, just like in Europe and everywhere else, if they have their way, they're going to raise taxes, state and federal, and bring in a VAT and a sales tax that they've got Neil Boortz and the former Federal Reserve head in Kansas City, the second most powerful position. It's New York Fed head, then Kansas City head. Kansas City is the #2 Federal Reserve post. And, of course, they have Neil Boortz and his boss up there, Herman Cain from the Federal Reserve, pushing new sales taxes, VAT, on top of the income tax. They're not going to get rid of that. Bill O'Reilly's pushing it. I've got videos of Glenn Beck on O'Reilly and his own show saying VAT, sales tax. This is conservative now. Pay our fair share. All the corporate welfare, the tens of trillions to foreign banks, the $2 trillion overall in defense spending, $1.1 trillion in the public budget, $800+ trillion in the supplemental. You're right at 1.9 or right at $2 trillion, counting some of the other black budget stuff. This is what we're talking about. And if we don't get this information out to people, they're going to win. They're going to take all the energy generated by their corruption and their enraging of the public and spin it around and further raise taxes and further bankrupt this country, just like their carbon taxes would do, that are only selectively enforced against small and medium-sized companies and that insider globalist corporations are exempt from. So I can say unequivocally that the groups in Occupy Wall Street, the groups that started it, the groups that are running it, the groups that are dominating it, the groups that are hissing at and pushing away in the Fedders and Ron Paul types that are showing up at these events, they are Barack Obama, Democratic Party arm. Then the Republicans will play the part of opposing them, thus claiming Wall Street are the good guys when they're not. So they'll say, look at these communists. See, Wall Street's good. Well, Wall Street are the ultimate communists, taking our tax money through bailouts and being too big to fail, and then creating derivatives garbage and then threatening to bankrupt the entire system if we don't pay tens of trillions into them. So you've got all these well-meaning people out on the street. You've got all these well-meaning people out there all over the country now. And when we had in the Fed demonstrations with 300, 400, 500, 1,000, depending on the event, some had over 2,000 of them, no media coverage to speak of, almost none. The U.S. Army surveilling us, pointing out this is who's imploding the economy, this is who's behind the bailouts, it's only going to get worse, watch the Obama deception, it's free online, we cover it all, we predict in a few years it'll only get worse. They will announce a Bank of the World over the North America and over the Euro. They will raise all these taxes and have it paid into the bankers, and it won't fix anything. And they will sick the mob on the middle class. It's all in the Obama deception, fall of the Republic. We're now here at this point. I watched the Wall Street group. I wanted to see if it was totally Sorosian run. I knew those elements were there. Now it's clear they created it. They've given it attention. They're calling it now in the globalist publications, London Telegraph, New York Times. The revolution is here. They're branding this the revolution. They demonized the Tea Party because it isn't perfect, but it came out of Ron Paul libertarian roots, so it was the enemy because it's anti-Fed. Anti-Federal Reserve. It got demonized. It got called radical. It got called extreme. It got called minority. It got demonized, and for a while they ignored it, but then they couldn't, so they just demonized it. When most polls actually show it about 65, 70% popular. Now they're going to call the revolution a bunch of really, most of them, at least the ones I've seen as the Yell leaders, totally empty-headed, zombie-like people. And we've got a CBS News piece linked up at Infowars.com, just one of the ones I watched this morning when I was 100% confirmed my worst fears. And it was just like a girl looking on a page going, and we 99% demand socialism. And then you cut to Warren Buffett going, it's wrong the rich don't pay anything. Raise my taxes. This is being broadcast on ABC News, CBS, CNN. These are all the channels that are basically exempt from taxes that get banker bailout money, your tax money. It's the ultra-rich using the poor as pressure from above and below to, like a vice grip, go in on what's left of the middle class. I hope you understand this. I hope you realize this. Now, I've got a battle plan to counter this. We have got, and I plan next Friday or this weekend coming up to go to Friday. I'll probably be at the Dallas Fed in the evening. I'll burn out at 2, try to get up there before dusk. Maybe I'll have to go off early if I do this, or have Aaron sit in for me, Aaron Dykes. I will get up to the Dallas Fed at like 6 o'clock for a demonstration. In fact, let's just announce it right now. I'll plan it right now here with you on air. This is just in my region, my neck of the woods, Region 6, FEMA. I will go and protest the Dallas Fed on Friday. Okay? Dallas Fed this next Friday. Dallas Fed this next Friday. Let's make it 6 o'clock. Dallas Fed over there right in the middle of downtown Dallas. Richard, you used to live there, so did I. I was just there a few years ago. What's the name of that whole area? It's got the Natural History Museum right by it, the aquarium.
You're talking about Fair Park, are you?
Yeah, Fair Park. Well, I mean, where is that the Dallas Fed is based?
I think it's close to downtown.
Yeah, I know it's downtown, but I'm thinking, what's that exact area? It doesn't matter. We'll have maps and all that. Friday, we're going to be there. Then I'm going to drive overnight, and we'll have a demonstration at the Houston Fed at high noon the next day. High noon the next day. And wait, I'm not done from there. We have 2 or 3 Feds in Texas. San Antonio has one. Is it better to start in San Antonio than shoot to Dallas and in the morning and then be in Houston Saturday evening? Or would you rather go to Dallas, Richard, since you're driving, Dallas, and then Houston, San Antonio back? We'll do that. Dallas, Houston, and then Sunday morning we'll do San Antonio, and then I'll come back to the Sunday radio show. How's that sound? All right, we'll do it that way. So that's the plan. Next Friday, I'm going to be at the Federal Reserve, and I'll explain why in a moment. You obviously, most of you know why, but I'll explain it to new folks who are tuning in right now. Next Friday, 6 o'clock, I want to see everybody there. That should give you time after work to get there in downtown Dallas at the Dallas Fed. Then the next day, high noon, in Houston. I will be at the Houston Fed, where Ron Paul was when the Army was out surveilling him. Then the next day at, let me pick a good time, 10 a.m. San Antonio. That way I have time to go for a few hours, then get back in the bus and go up to Austin from San Antonio so I can do the 2-hour radio show, 4 to 6 p.m. Okay? So you want action, you got it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm calling on a nationwide Occupy the Federal Reserve movement. You're seeing it born right here. Occupy the Federal Reserve. Occupy the crony capitalist, the crony fascist. They're not free market. Occupy the monopoly men of the Federal Reserve. We are going to point out not general Wall Street and capitalism. They're saying Wall Street, free market, capitalism's to blame. Really? Government taking my money at gunpoint and giving over $27 trillion, according to Bloomberg, in the last 3.5 years to foreign offshore banks and paying off U.S. media like MSNBC, hundreds of millions of dollars of my tax money and your tax money on record. 52% of the U.S. pays no income tax now, and they want to sick them on the rest of us that still do. These are offshore banks who are exempt from it all. We are not going to go protest everybody that works on Wall Street out of 10,000 plus companies or more that are represented in stocks there. Manufacturing companies, merchant companies, small and regional, I mean, there's so many travel companies, hotel companies, all of it. Michael Moore says the problem is capitalism, period. This is not capitalism. This is mega banks who control the issuance of currency and credit since 1913 taking over our country. But I'm going further than that, ladies and gentlemen. I am sending Rob Jacobson and others to New York today to cover the George Soros provocateur protest. And we're going to point out there are real people, real patriots who understand that it's crony, non-free market, monopoly, fascism that we're dealing with that uses socialism at the grassroots to get us socialized and dependent and then transfer our wealth out of the country. The globalists are waging war against industrial bases. They're waging war against you having a successful business. There's so much wealth and so much energy and so much power in humanity in commerce. We'd all be living like kings. Everything they do is about shutting down economies. They got rid of the Glass-Steagall, the private Federal Reserve shareholders, the big 6 megabanks. That's who we're going to protest. They're the people that want us to pay off their $1,500 trillion. They're the people that are sucking us into their false black hole. So I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it again. Occupy the Federal Reserve. Expose the crony insiders. Yeah, here is the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, 2200 North Pearl Street. It's got a castle wall around it with battlements. Most of the Federal Reserves do. The one in New York has fortresses, a fortress around it with big, giant iron grates, because they understand they are in an enemy camp. They are in our republic. There it is in Dallas. We're going to get it all out. Paul Watson, all the writers tomorrow. You will see the announcement. We're not going to let George Soros get away with this. We're not going to let George Soros and Warren Buffett and Al Gore and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all the usual suspects sit there and rape us and then say, oh, look, Wall Street's exempt from taxes. These are the very men that got the laws written where they're exempt to be offshore. That's what globalism is. You pay for the military to back up their globalist takeover as the European, U.S., English empire. You pay for the banker bailouts. You pay for everything. And then you are middle class and own a pool company or own a car dealership or own a restaurant or own a little shop, and you're living the American dream. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're rich. We're going to get your money. And they sick a giant pack of snot-nosed socialist college students who've never worked a day in their life, who've been bankrupted. I told you guys 10 years ago not to go to college, and I was attacked. I told you you were paying 2, 3, 4 times what it was worth. I told you there weren't going to be any jobs left. I told you 10 years ago most people I knew who had 2, 3 degrees were bagging groceries. Oh, and I was the bad guy that didn't want you to have an education. No. It doesn't work. You go for a 6, 8-year engineering degree, they're going to take your job with somebody from China or India. Not that they're bad wanting jobs there either. It's the way the globalists have set it up. Okay? And now you got millions of mad people who can't pay off their student loans. You got the Department of Justice SWAT team raiding people that haven't paid their bill when it's not even a criminal issue. It's a civil issue to intimidate people, but it's not criminal to not take shots and they're arresting people. This is a pack of crooks. It's not criminal to not take the Garda shield. But that piece of garbage Rick Perry said it was. Now, listen, the controlled right wing, Limbo and Beck and all of them who supported the banker bailout, who support the new VAT taxes, on top of all this stuff to, quote, pay off our debt, they're going to keep the income tax. They're going to tell you Wall Street's perfect. They're going to mix mom and pops and small Wall Street penny stocks in with the big mega banks. It isn't Wall Street's good and everybody else is bad on the left. Or isn't everybody on the left is good and Wall Street's bad? Wall Street is just a name of a stock trading area. We're going directly with people with names. The Federal Reserve of Dallas, the Federal Reserve of Houston, the Federal Reserve of San Antonio, and I would go more places, but I've got to do the nightly news. I've got to do the daily 3-hour radio show. You in your town, next Friday, next Saturday, and next Sunday, you need to get together in groups, organize it, or if you don't know anybody, go to meetups, whatever. We'll create lists throughout the week at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, and you get out there, and we need to identify the real enemies. Now, I haven't talked for 30 minutes to home base there in Austin, kind of our Houston or our Cape Canaveral, while I'm out here floating around in the middle of nowhere. Guys, give me a check. Everything's still good on the Skype here? Oh, I see Richard's over there right now. Richard, you want to come over here and say a few things before I collect myself and just kind of, I need to get Aaron Dykes. I need to get, I'm running out of editors. I need to get Rob, Do, or somebody to kind of take this whole rant here and kind of boil it down to 5 minutes to make the succinct points. But Richard, you want to jump in here and sit around here, buddy. You want to jump in here and say anything to folks about basically you've been hearing me rant for 35 minutes about the takeaway that you've gotten from what I've said. Do you agree? What do you think of the spontaneous ideas that I just literally, I mean, I was already saying we've got to protest and we've got to fight them, but it's so simple, Richard. We've got to actually go after the 6 mega banks. They use socialism to do this at the grassroots and corporate welfare. They're trying to scapegoat our entire system to use government to steal even more of our money. They use the crimes they've committed as the pretext to take over society and get even more power and shut down what's left of their competition.
Well, it's the classic old problem, reaction, solution that they always use. And I do like the ideas. I like the ideas, especially about getting out there on Friday and going to the Federal Reserve in Dallas and going to Houston on Saturday morning and San Antonio at the Federal Reserve there. That's going to be real exciting to see that, and it's going to be exciting to meet with a lot of the fellow info warriors. And I think that they are really going to be pumped up about the new plan.
And again, we're not going to let George Soros just sit there and hijack the anger and say it's Wall Street and capitalism, and their answer is pay trillions more in the general public's money to offshore mega banks who openly finance communism as a way to rob the public. It's real simple. They're going to use the anger to bring in their full revolution of tyranny. That's what Homeland Security and all of it's about. Get it through your heads. We cannot let the dirty little commies funded by Soros and the rest of them run around and take over the revolution of in the Fed and going after the globalists that we started, just like the Republicans tried to co-opt the damn Tea Party.
Well, and they're not going to succeed in these runs against us because we're going to get out there and we're going to fight, and more people. This movement is way bigger than it was during the 07-08 election cycle. And
just like the Republicans tried to co-opt the Tea Party, we're not going to let them.
Exactly. We're not going to let them. And folks out there, it's going to be very exciting to meet with all the info warriors all around the country as we travel to all the different venues here in Texas and beyond.
I'm getting fired up here. You know, it's always like this. People think I spontaneously know what's going to happen in the future and stuff, Richard, because I just suddenly, think of it. No, with something new, I knew these protests were coming. I knew a Soros color revolution was going to be their answer. I mean, Ron Paul, back in McKinney Ruff's 8 years ago, it's in the Matrix of Evil. He said they're going to implode things. The banks are going to use this Glass-Steagall and stuff. He actually talked about it all. And derivatives implode everything and hold everybody hostage. It's at that juncture that they'll try to offer more socialism. Again, at the grassroots, that's transferred in corporate fascism offshore. I always get these idiots sending me emails going, you don't understand, fascism and socialism are 2 different things. That's what you're taught in your textbooks. But I actually read the CIA declassified Carroll Quigley documents like Tragedy and Hope. He explains, no, they give you 2 false choices like grape and cherry Kool-Aid, but they both have cyanide. It's still the same stuff. Okay, so they use socialism at the grassroots to consolidate and get us dependent. Then that's transferred offshore to the mega elite that are exempt from their own rules. I don't know how else I get this across to you out there. You need to grow up and get it. The problem is not some free market person that owns a hotel or a restaurant, or who owns a place making diamond gusset jeans, or somebody like me, a grassroots filmmaker who hires 30-something people. The problem is insider globalists waging war against the true free market and blaming the free market and our free society on everything that's going on and happening. It's so elementary. It's so simple. Richard, anything else?
Well, there's one thing that the powers that be still control, and that's the mainstream media. That's one of the few avenues that they are still able to control the masses. But more and more and more, the alternative media, like you with Infowars and all the other great activists, are going to relegate the mainstream media. They're going to still be there, but they'll be like the sideline sideshow, freak show at the circus or whatever, that people could still get to watch a little bit of it just to have a flavor of it. But the alternative news is going to relegate all that mainstream news garbage to the wayside.
All right, buddy. I'm going to go about 10 more minutes, and then because when we turn the AC off and the sucker starts getting hot, I'm going to go about, it's too loud if I turn that on. So I'm going to finish up here. Try to compose myself because I've basically just been brainstorming here on air. See, I'm going to be honest. I'd interviewed some guests that have been down there, and I've gotten intel, and Tarpley, who everybody knows is he won't call it a socialist. He calls himself, a true American system person who believes in free credit and capital investment by government. Regardless, he's a great historian, but people out there know this is not some right-winger. And he did the research and said that there's no doubt this is George Soros. And since then, I did some more research. And last night and this morning, I did a lot of research. And, man, when I watched the protest all over the country being given media attention, and I saw the slogans being the same, and I saw that the organizations are connected to the Democratic Party. Listen, it's just like people electing Obama thinking he would fix things. McCain wasn't going to fix things either. They're all bought and paid for by the same interest. More banker bailouts, more stimulus to select insiders, more taxes to shut down their competition. These are monopoly men, and they know there's anger to what they're doing, and so they know that that we've reached a revolution point in this country, and they can't have it being led by in the fetters and people that want to get rid of the New World Order. That's why the Federal Reserve has now announced they're spying on their opposition, making enemies list. And you notice right as that happens, they come out with their controlled opposition that just calls for socialism and communism and raising taxes on the rich, because the globalists are in Switzerland and Luxembourg and other areas in Monte Carlo. They're all exempt. You notice all of Obama's big contributors, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, General Electric, you read where they pay zero tax. They get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, some cases trillions of dollars of bailout, and then they make hundreds and hundreds of billions per company in bonuses, and then they're the very ones, go research, the #1 funders of carbon taxes, the #1 funders of all of this. It's Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Bank of England, Dutch Royal Shell, Exxon Mobil, BP, and then I get these emails going, you work for oil companies because you're against carbon taxes. What does a carbon tax do on, what do carbon taxes do on companies in America? It shuts them down. And then the globalists move to China. Aaron Dykes just sent us a message. Many protesters, Boston Fed, chant in the Fed, F the Fed. Yeah, it's already begun. People, listen, months ago we had calls for people to protest the Fed in New York, and they had the cops already waiting for them when we got there. So what happened is they saw the in the Fed protest. That's the point I meant to make. Thank you for reminding me, Richard. Is that there's already protests of the Fed, and it's being ignored by the corporate whore media. But we have the alternative media now. There it is. More than 700 arrested in Wall Street protests, dozens cuffed in Boston after targeting Bank of America. Protests spread across USA, Los Angeles, Chicago, Denver, Seattle. You know, I'm tempted, Richard, to go ahead and have Aaron Dykes do the nightly news and just go ahead and get back and start hitting the road now. And going ahead and just going all over the country and hitting different feds and protesting them and doing the show right here from the RV.
We can start.
We're going to see what happens. But again, the mainstream corporate whore media is only trying to focus on people saying down with capitalism, down with the free market, not down with elite corporations being exempt from their own taxes and taking the middle class's money, down with the mega banks lobbying for VAT and other sales taxes to, quote, pay off the debt we owe when it's 1.5 quadrillion of garbage they created that we don't owe. They've done this in Greece. They've done this in Ireland. They didn't get away with it in Iceland. This is a total bamboozling. So let me announce it again. Here's the big announcement. Occupy the Fed protest. Occupy the banksters. Occupy the insiders. Go after the real threat. Don't let them scapegoat the free market. Don't let them blame our republic. Don't let them get away with this. Obama got financed by Goldman Sachs, 4 times the money McCain got, because he was their golden boy who could sell the propaganda. Now they got Rick Perry and all these other Federal Reserve people and Herman Cain. But again, the Republicans knew the Tea Party was going to destroy them, so they tried to co-opt it, but they failed. Rick Perry tried to become Ron Paul. Herman Cain tried to become Ron Paul. But as their records come out, it's over for them. Now, I want to be clear. The mainstream media from day one has not been covering the in the Fed protest because it actually goes to the oligarchs, to the insiders, to the people that are above the law. We are not just going to go around and protest capitalism. We're going to point out we're protesting insider crony monopoly people. It's not even crony capitalism. This is insiders hijacking our financial system. George Soros, Michael Moore, Warren Buffett are all lobbying for higher taxes to, quote, get the rich guys. But when you read the legislation being brought forward by them, it's targeting middle-class people, not the ultra-rich. I just say we don't owe all this money, these tens of trillions of dollars. Let Wall Street take a haircut. Then they'll try to hold us financially hostage and say there's going to be martial law, blood in the streets, just like they did 3.5 years ago here, or just like they just recently did in Europe, and holding everybody hostage. Now they're announcing a financial dictatorship over Europe. They've announced a financial dictatorship. That's the words. Over Europe, run by private banks. Think of the magnitude. And now they're going to do that here. They got a super Congress in place to control the new legislation so that regular members of the House can't bring forward the spending bills. Do you see how they're setting this up? Do you see how they're getting us ready? They're setting up a bureaucracy of unelected rulers controlled by private central banks over Europe. They've got a super Congress, 12 tyrants with the president as the 13th. All of it coming to a head now, and now they've unleashed all the angry college students who mean well, going, socialism, down with capitalism, Michael Moore. Hundreds of millions of dollars, huge insider, waddling around going, capitalism's the problem. This isn't capitalism. Government allowed these mega banks to do this and to get our tax money. They would have just gone bankrupt. But instead, they allow them to say too big to fail and tie it to us, tie that ball and chain, that millstone around our necks. We've seen endless slogans out of these people. You think the bankers were going to implode economies? Listen to me carefully. Did you think the bankers were going to implode economies and bring in all this tyranny and somehow get us to sign on to 1,500 trillion, 1.5 quadrillion without a plan? They're going to bait and switch. It's the same Federal Reserve, now part of congressional record, they learned decades later, ran ads through proxy groups in hundreds of newspapers and had their own newspaper columnists write against the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 with the big private banking heads out criticizing it, saying they didn't want it. Please, they said, don't give us a Federal Reserve. It won't let us speculate and rip people off anymore. And what happened? They totally took over the country through it. They had authored it. They had met secretly 100 years ago. They just had the anniversary this year at Jekyll Island. They celebrated their plan 3 years before to bring in the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, 98 years ago. 2 years later, they got it through on December 23rd without a quorum in the House and Senate. 3 senators voted it in, just like the Super Congress. They've got it all lined up. They think you're stupid. They think you can't figure it out. And just watching from L.A. to Chicago, from Boston to you name it, New York, to watch communists run around and say, tax the rich, VAT. And I saw headlines this week, was it the New York Times, about protesters on Wall Street say, raise my taxes. You don't get the taxes. You pay for the war, for the globalist military that we think's the American military and the European military. You pay for the global occupation banker force. You pay for the banker bailouts. You pay for it all. Limbaugh never tells you the inside. Beck never tells you the inside on the right. And you never get told this stuff by the left. They just play you like fiddles, like you're morons. Warren Buffett helped lobby for Glass-Steagall to be repealed, to do this, to sell you the derivatives, to screw everything up, to destroy the world financial system, to hold it all hostage, to bring in a new system, global carbon, global VAT, global sales taxes. Now it's here, global dictatorship. Obama, Bush, the wars, the torture, the Wall Street bailouts, different rhetoric. And what is different rhetoric but the same actions? What has Obama said? He's going to play race card publicly. Now they're saying you're racist if you criticize future bailouts. They're saying everything's racist. Again, it's to get us all fighting, black and white, Hispanic, whatever. Stop fighting and don't start blaming somebody down the street that's got a business. They're not the reason you've got trouble. You tax them, they shut down, now you won't even have a job. And that's what the globalists want. They say they want a post-industrial America. It's the little middle class. We used to have the biggest in the world. It's now shrinking. It's shrunk by around 50% in the last 30 years. Our middle class is almost gone. People are working 2-3 jobs to keep up the middle class lifestyle. They're the ones that employ people. They're the ones that pay the stinking taxes. The big bankers are exempt from it. And this is a plea to all of the well-meaning liberals out there. I told you Barack Obama was going to screw you something fierce, just like I told you Bush was. Just like we've been shooting down Rick Perry right now, and he's plunging. We aren't partisan. We're into the truth. We understand the banksters. We understand their program. We know how to defeat them. And people kept saying for 2 weeks, we had guests on and covered it, and I was kind of neutral. I said, we know the Soros groups are there trying to co-opt it. We know there's libertarian groups, there's the Fedders there. There's a lot of students that are angry about their student loans being so, loan sharking high. But now it's clear the mainstream media is adding fuel to this fire. They're giving it huge attention. They're saying this is the revolution. They're giving attention to the Ford Foundation controlled left, people like Democracy Now! And they're going to take all this anger at the bankers, and they're going to blame it on America and the Republic and the free market and capitalism. When the free market and capitalism... Have you seen Newsweek and Time Magazine with the covers the last 3 months? Richard, pull it up. Time Magazine, Newsweek called for shredding the Constitution. You've seen it in newsstands. Get rid of the Constitution. It'll fix it. I hear pundits everywhere. We'll fix everything when we get rid of the Constitution. I heard Bloomberg in the last 2 weeks and CNBC say, get rid of democracy in Europe. The Germans don't want to vote to pay, and to raise their taxes and cut their benefits. It's austerity. All of you idiot left out there calling for bigger government, you're not going to get any of the tax money. It's all going to the bankers, you stooges. And when things get even worse, they'll call to raise taxes even more, and you'll lose even more jobs and lose even more of your pay. And then you'll riot for more communism, and things will get worse and worse like China and like Russia until you wake up and stop letting these bankers manipulate you. And you mainline conservatives, man. The fact, just type in, search web, not news. News won't find it. Click the news tab up at the top. Now click web. Just type in Newsweek says get rid of the Constitution. So Newsweek says get rid of the Constitution. And it shows the Constitution being shredded and says, is it outdated? And it's just like Case for Killing Granny. They said, yeah, we got death panels. We're going to murder your grandmother. Bill Gates, what did Bill Gates say last year? He said, you can hire 10 teachers if we just don't give grandma treatment in her last few years of life. And the teachers all clapped. You idiots. The same predatory system that'll kill a grandma and tell you you're going to get a job because you killed somebody is going to screw you too. There it is. Yeah, just Newsweek says get rid of the Constitution. Just add Infowars.com to the end of it. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to do it on the road, what I do. We just got to put a printer on here, and then I can actually... I know what, the crew up there, if they can find it, can put it up. I don't see it here. Maybe it was Time. I know it was both of them wrote articles about it. And it's burning up in here. All right, let's do a test and see if it's too loud. Well, it takes a long time to cool it down, doesn't it? So now that it's gotten so hot, it won't matter. It doesn't matter. Everybody's seen those articles. Now, or click on images. That may bring it up. Listen to me. Listen to me. The left-right system is a way to play us off against each other. Instead of us being about ideas, we're about race or religion or what political football team we're in. Dallas Cowboys, Redskins, Coke, Pepsi, Ford, Chevy. Get out of that. Get outside the box. Get more sophisticated. We're fighting monopoly men who use government regulation to shut down their competition. There it is. You found it. There it is. Does it still matter? And it shows the Constitution being shredded right there. And then it goes in to basically say, if we get rid of it, it'll fix everything. Thank you. Now, this is big what we're doing. This is big what we're launching. This is big. We're going to get this video posted to our YouTube channel. It's streaming right now at prisonplanet.tv. We've got the audio stream up at Infowars.com. We're streaming it on Justin TV. I am going to, history's happening right now, and I am going to turn it loose. You're going to see some absolute kick-butt behavior coming out from us, but I need your help in this. I need you to hit the streets. I need you to start planning and then emailing us. Richard, what's your email?
Richard at Infowars.com.
Richard at Infowars.com is one place. You can send emails. You can send them to Kurt Nemo. Everything's. We're going to start posting where different in the Fed protests are happening around the country, just like Paul Revere. Don't wait for orders from headquarters. Go to the sound of the guns. You are the 21st century Paul Revere. The globalists are running a giant psyop. They've triggered our economic implosion. Now they're throwing us a life raft that is going to take us straight to hell. We've got to get people on the real life raft of free market, constitution, fair weights and measures, freedom, low taxes, not globalism, not foreign banks raping us. We are going to go after the Federal Reserve peacefully and identify them. And even if you can't come to the demonstrations, call your local radio and TV when you hear about one in your area. Call them, tell them to be there, because there's enough heat going right now that they'll have to start reporting on it, that people are at these events. And that's why the cops are so nice. They beat people up in New York and places because the cops don't know why. They're being told by psychological warfare chiefs they're too stupid. They're compartmentalized. They beat people up when they wanted to get attention. They're beating people up and arresting them to make them look like martyrs so that it gains steam. The cops are going to kiss your butts at these Federal Reserve events because they do not want anybody to be arrested. They're there with the Army watching. They're scared. They know, my God, the people are actually got sunglasses like they live. They can see. We're not out here fighting puppet Wall Street, simple name, capitalism. Oh, yeah. No. We don't want the Soviet system. We're not here attacking Obama or Bush or some new puppet. We're going right to the eye of Sauron, right to the eye on the dollar bill, right to the New World Order, right to the private Federal Reserve that represents the 6 big offshore megabanks. Okay? We're going right at them, right at them, right at them. They want to misdirect all this energy, all this anger, this concern, this awareness. They want to send that at the American people. They want to take your energy and anger and get a giant mass of the unwashed mob, as the globalists would call them, the useful idiots, and take that energy we throw at the bankers and throw it back at the American people. So they get even more power. The globalists get more taxes, more regulations, more control. We need to take this anger that's now crusting. That's why the globalists are triggering their Soros armies, triggering their Acorn Obama groups to come out and go, we want more taxes, get the rich people. So they shut down the guy that owns a breakfast taco place down the street from you with more taxes. That's who these people hit. $125,000 a year. $125,000 a year is like what making $50,000 was 10, 15 years ago. Look at the numbers. Somebody making $1 million a year is making the equivalent like 300, 400,000. 10, 15 years ago. Look at the numbers, depending on where you live in the country. And they're saying, Warren Buffett, get the rich people. I'm exempt from taxes. It isn't right. I'm making billions on bailouts, he doesn't tell you. He wants more bailout money. Meanwhile, they're like, yeah, get the rich guys. He's like, get them. And they go out to the middle class and steal their money and take it to him and Rothschild and Rockefeller. I see you. I know who you are. We're going to occupy the Federal Reserve. Now, I can show up at different events and I can be there. But obviously, I can't camp out at one spot. I'm almost tempted to. That would really get attention, to the fact that they're the bankers. We've got to get attention on who is really behind it. We have to go past the puppets to the real leadership of the globalists, or we have no hope. But the globalists could have miscalculated, like Iceland and other areas. This could backfire on them. We could defeat them. Our numbers, like Richard said, are a lot bigger than they used to be. It's going to be fluid. I'll think about it. We'll announce it tomorrow. Tentatively, I'm going to be in Dallas and then San Antonio and Houston. But I don't think we can wait the more I look at this. Because the globalists, I was watching this Wall Street thing. I knew Soros was involved. Now the media is all behind it, giving it as much attention. They're saying, oh, this is great. And the New York Times, like, how wonderful of them. Folks, even if they were wonderful, when the New York Times says you're wonderful, look out. Okay, you notice they don't say that about the real Tea Party that Ron Paul movement started. They don't say that about liberty groups. You notice that. They demonize them even when they are popular because we're going after the real... They tried to have Republicans co-opted and they demonized it. An attack from both sides of the control paradigm. So in summation, the George Soros Democratic Party banker-owned system that teams up with the very same Republicans, 2 wings on the same carrion bird, the same buzzard, they are launching an all-out co-opting movement of our revolution against the globalist, our restoration of the republic. We expose the bankers. We expose their fiat system. The bankers think the public isn't sophisticated enough to get that. They turn loose the Al Gore-ites, and I've watched them on the news and on their own clips. They turn loose the George Soros, Obamanoids, calling for more taxes. That's their strategy going into this new election. And they've got the Super Congress in place to literally loot this country in globalist reparations to the banksters up one side and down the other. So again, I'm Alex Jones asking you nationwide, don't wait. Even if it's just 10 of you, your libertarian group, your liberal group, your anti-war group, your conservative group, your bird-watching group, your seniors group, whoever's being screwed by this, and that's all of us. If it's 5 of you, get out to your local Federal Reserve. Point out, this is the problem. This is the 6 banks that make the rules and are exempt and give themselves trillions. These are the people that created the derivatives. These are the people that say they're above the law. These are the people that won't tell Congress where the trillions went, and now we learn it's to the media to buy them off. These are the people. This is a test. Can the globalists at this critical juncture? We did our work. We woke up people. We energized the population of this world. We're giving the globalists a run for their money. We can and we will defeat them. It is up to you, but please. And again, I get blindsided. I knew this was Sorosian, but I wanted to try to be positive about protesting Wall Street, and I was watching the libertarian groups get pushed aside, and the Patriot groups, and the Tea Party groups, and I confirmed with our reporters and others that basically there's hissing Democrats there that kick everybody out and lead everything, and then this isn't a populist movement. This is a Soros movement. We've got to energize everybody to go up against the bankers. They're the ones that launch the wars. If you Democrats out there want the same old, then go to your things and follow your chants and call for higher taxes. But if you want to wake up and break your mental change, now's the time. Same thing to mainline Rush Limbaugh listeners and Glenn Beck viewers and people. It is time for you to really get sophisticated. This isn't sophisticated. It's sophisticated next to the mindlessness they feed you. But it's time to figure out exactly what's going on. It's time to figure out exactly what we are facing. Are you surfing the web on the same video package or using it? Huh?
At the moment, it's still working. We got audio.
Hey, is it still working on your end whenever he searches stuff over here or watches video? But is it making it get choppy when we check stuff on the web? Yeah, it is. It is. Definitely. We're just testing stuff. What we'll have to do is whenever we're on the road, we'll use whoever's local wireless. Or can't we get somebody else's network? Can't we get 2 4G cards to where I can surf the web while I'm on here?
That's what that smartphone idea was behind.
Well, we better get one.
Yeah.
Better get one fast. Because I know we have 2 other smartphones, but they're already in the field. One of them just went to New York.
We'll get what we need.
Our reporters are in the field. The revolution is here. Will you let Soros and Al Gore and the Rothschilds and Obama and the neocons co-opt this awakening, or will we get the word out and expose the fact that socialism and communism on the grassroots is a funding mechanism to the offshore above the law fascists who use it as a way to suck all of our wealth into themselves? And they dangle that number of, look at the super elite. 2% have got, 80% of the money. Get that guy with $100,000 a year. Because they know poor people think a person making $100,000 a year is the elite. We're talking about people that have stolen trillions. We're talking about people that get hundreds of billions in bailout money apiece. People that are exempt from laws. People whose wealth is secret, like the British and Dutch crown, who call for carbon taxes. Wake up. Stop being conned. I know it's fun for the left to hate anybody with money and anybody who's free market. But you're not going to get your communist utopia. It's banker run. They funded the Soviets, for God's sakes. They funded Hitler. You can see them. You can see them launching a total takeover of society. And they're going to, pretty soon, the welfare checks and the 50 million people on food stamps, you're still going to get your food stamps. It's just not going to buy the food anymore because the Federal Reserve is devaluing the money. And instead, they're going to go out and burn down middle-class neighborhoods. You watch. And the government's going to say, see, raise taxes. And they're going to burn down middle-class neighborhoods. That's what people have been taught to do instead of going after the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve knows they're the enemy. They know they're the people that run the society through fraud. That's why you go to a big Federal Reserve office, they have battlements around them. Here's another thing. I'm tempted to go to the Kansas City Fed. That's the one where Aaron Dykes and Rob Jacobson were at. That's the one that Herman Cain was the head of it. He said on the old boards, he said, just call them. Go visit the Federal Reserve. They're your friend. Really, my guys were a half-mile away videotaping them, and they came with guns off their jurisdiction, security guards, and threatened my guys with guns. Color of law, like road warrior, just lawlessness to leave. I think I'm going to go to the Kansas City Fed. And I guess, come on out there in your black uniforms and point your guns at me. I'm sick of it. You're the ones that want violence. You're the ones that send the army out to our events because you know that we know you're the real and illegitimate government. And we're sick of it. You want to bankrupt our country. You want to bring in our world government. I know a lot of you lefties will take the cowardly way out. You'll just go protest capitalism and go protest your boss or something, or go protest somebody who's, you know, got sandals that are nicer than yours. And all you Republicans like the easy way. You'll just say Wall Street's perfect and the Federal Reserve's good, and you'll mix it all together and defend all the crony capitalism and the robbing and the thieving that went on under Bush. And if you don't wake up to all this, you're going to lose everything. If you don't wake up, you're going to lose everything. Do you understand me? It's time to wake up. It's time to go up against the Federal Reserve. It's time to occupy Wall Street. It's time to occupy the people that control Wall Street. So instead of just going to some distant thing and sitting there having New York thug gangster cops beat you up, or direct, they made them, this is confirmed, off of the sidewalk, and they made them block the highway because they were told to. The New York cops were told to put them in the highway. That way it gives them massive attention because they want that Soros group to get the attention. We need to occupy the controllers of Wall Street, the people that are using the banker bailouts and the Wall Street bailouts to bankrupt this nation. We need to arrest the banker heads, the people that have stolen trillions. We need to claw back the trillions of dollars. We need to, it's just incredible. Again, you mainline conservatives say, cut Social Security, get rid of welfare and all this. But you never want to say get rid of the banker welfare or cut the defense spending. You don't ever want to go after the real issues. You're just as bad as the moron hippies. I'll tell you something. The good news is hippie-type folks are waking up, and so are mainline conservatives. And I've been ranting here for over an hour now. I am angry. I am focused. I can see the move they're engaged in, and it's very simple. I'm going to say it again. Get this out to everybody you know. The globalists, through Google and other systems, can track mass movements. They admit they can do this. They knew the country was on the edge of revolution. They knew that 3.5 years ago, so they put Obama in as a stalling technique. Then they could also play racial division once people criticize his policies, which were globalist. You criticize Bush, white people defending, thinking, well, he's our white guy, he must be good. Texans defending. Same thing. Obama gets in, well, black folks, well, we don't like him, but we still better defend him, he's black. So they put him in to stall people. The country was on the edge of revolution, like KRS-One says in the Obama deception. Then they put in a black man. They put a black face in the New World Order. Now everybody that was like this is like this, sitting back. And now they're going to come in and say, oh, yeah, it's free market. Raise the taxes. Raise the taxes. What are the bankers calling for 100% of the time? The mega bankers, the big six, are calling for the VAT, the carbon taxes, the sales taxes on the middle class and everybody. The exact same things the university funded, which are banker funded, fools, useful idiots are doing. So you Republicans better grow up and get smart, and so should you so-called liberals. The bankers, the global oligarchs are funding the Occupy Wall Street group, at least the group that's organized and getting the attention. You understand that? We have to go after the real group. We have to go after the power structure. We have to go after the New World Order. We have to identify that it isn't the free market and it isn't people that give folks jobs and invest in America. It's the globalists that shut down our industry and shipped our jobs overseas and gave us a Federal Reserve and got rid of the Glass-Steagall and screwed us to the wall. It's the New World Order. And what's at the head of the New World Order? The Federal Reserve. That's the problem. That's what has to be dealt with. And until that's dealt with, there's no future. Do you got it? Do you understand me? There's no more time to screw around, folks. The Republic's going down. Now, I took 2 weeks to analyze this, even though I knew what it was 2 weeks ago. I wanted to make sure. They're going for broke right now. They're giving this fire total oxygen because they want it to go crazy. They're calling it the revolution. This isn't the revolution. This is co-opted crap to turn America into a communist state run by offshore banks that suck the money out. You've been warned, ladies and gentlemen. I know history's happening right now. We're not going to let the bankers flip this to a collective estate to steal our money. Oh, they're exempt offshore. We're going to get out there and hit as many Federal Reserve offices as we can with the truth. We're going to try to get media attention. We need your help. Get the press releases out. Get the buzz going on Twitter, Facebook. Get this video out to everybody. We're not going to be diverted with a decoy of Wall Street and free market and capitalism. It was all insider crony capitalist garbage that did this, the opposite of free market. The big banksters are pushing all the socialism to steal your money and to collectivize you so you can't start a business and ever crawl up so you can be a peon down in the dirt. All over the world, the globalists use people being poor and poverty to control people so they live in dirt streets with sewage running down the road. The globalist, 2 years ago at Copenhagen, they told the third world, we're going to give you all the West money, sign on to it. But they said, sign the treaty before reading it. They finally got a copy, and it was right at double the taxes on people making $2 a day or less. Right at double, just not quite double. Double the taxes. It was a death sentence for 1 billion people. That's your liberalism. You people aren't liberal. These are all just terms and names. You think the Nazis are going to show back up in uniforms and little mustaches? They're going to show up going, I'm liberal, I'm trendy. They're going to show up with a bunch of right-wing scum as well. This is 21st century full-spectrum dominance. Just like the Pentagon funds Al-Qaeda and Israel funds it as well, so the British. So they can then have the enemy. The Al-Qaeda boss is CIA. And the low-level poor guy blowing himself up doesn't even know it. That is how they operate. That is how they get this done. That is what they're doing. They don't want us to march on them. They want us to march on each other and destroy what's left of a free market and wealth in this country. You like globalism? You like socialism? You like big government? Has it been better for you? They got a bunch of dirty leg hippies out there telling everybody that that's the answer and blaming free market. When we left the free market, when this country had somewhat of a free market, we had 10% growth rates on average from the 1780s until 1913. Look it up. We've had a 3% growth rate since then with massive annual inflation. So we haven't had any growth at all. Since the 60s, the middle class has been disappearing. I want the banker coup to end, and I've actually identified them. They're masters at disguise, masters at camouflage, masters at distracting you. You want to march on Wall Street? We need to march on their masters. We need to march on the insiders, the crony people, the monopoly men. All right, I'm done ranting. Coming up in less than 1 hour, we got a rebroadcast. Some of it's never before heard. Some of it's from the Infowars Nightly News. We did a big fluoride report that was so good Friday, and I'm not sure if Jaron's going to have that on there because I just sprung that on him to put it into the rebroadcast. We got quite a rebroadcast lined up for you, 4 to 6 p.m., and then back tomorrow live, 11 a.m. Central. I'll be here. Obviously, I'm sweating because in the RV, we got to turn the AC off, and I've been on for over an hour, and it's about 9 degrees outside. So I'm starting to cook in here. We're going after the real enemy. I know I keep repeating it. You got to get this out to people. It's not Wall Street and capitalism. It's insiders. It's the big 6 mega banks. They've gotten $27 trillion conservatively. $16.5 trillion was secret. We just learned about it a few months ago. $16+ trillion. The entire GDP isn't even near that every year. My God, that's bigger than the entire budget deficit. This isn't money we owe. We'd be in milk and honey. We have parasites sitting on top of us. It's time to take our republic back and to take our world back. The very same banks that rule us are the ones that rule third world countries and that rule Europe. They're the same ones setting up a financial dictatorship there. They're just calling it outright austerity there and saying they're going to take everything from the Germans. My God. Will Soros and Al Gore and the Rothschilds and all this scum beat us again? They might, because they've got the controlled right that'll play the part of opposition and never tell their audience what's really going on. They'll put on this whole show like they're fighting with each other. Not me. I'm risking my life, folks. But we don't have any future if we don't beat these people. The Fed says they're surveilling all their, quote, enemies. They say they're worried. Well, they better be worried. Okay. I'll see you back live tomorrow, 11 a.m. The retransmission's coming up. And great job to the crew that's up there on Sunday. And again, pray for us driving back on the road and pray for a hedge of protection up around our entire crew, because what we're doing is going right up against the enemy toe-to-toe. Pray for us. Get the word out about what we're doing. It's Occupy the Fed. It's in the Fed. It is Expose the Fed. Get the information at Infowars.com. Get this video when it's posted. Get out to everybody. I'm Alex Jones signing off. The rest is up to you.
Jungle life, I'm far away from nowhere.